Sports Assembly conversation. My name is Keisha White with the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm also a founding board member of the Pro Sports Assembly. And today we are here to talk about Innovate for Inclusion. Obviously, we have on the panel today Antony, Renee, Uma, and Dominique, and we are going to talk about bringing really much so awareness to the invisible disabilities such as autism. As an FYI to you all, this month is Autism Awareness Month. And so we want to just kind of highlight and bring to the discussion and really bring to the table about inclusion of including everybody and all fans in sports arenas specifically. And so today I'm so excited for this conversation, and I'm going to pass it on to Uma, and we will get this party and discussion on the road. So thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. Happy April, everybody. So glad March is behind us, ready for sunshine and good weather all around. Really happy to have our board members, Renee and Dominique, join us. If you just signed in, Dominique is with us for a little bit and he has to hop off to the arena. He's got a couple of events happening there, and also really excited to have Antony join us as well. To set the stage, yes, it is Autism Awareness Month. We all hear sensory needs, sensory inclusion in our day-to-day life, whether it's the work that we do, whether it's through friends, families, the community. But what are sensory needs and who's impacted by it? 1 in 5 individuals has a sensory need. Not only is it individuals or children with autism, it's also adults with autism. It's individuals of all ages with Down syndrome, PTSD, ADHD, anxiety, cystic fibrosis, and a whole host of other conditions where individuals oftentimes feel overwhelmed due to their environment, crowds, lights, sounds. And so for these individuals in particular, it oftentimes is challenging for them to go to a basketball game, attend a concert, just due to the environment. So what Culture City has done is we've made over 650 venues inclusive in 4 countries, and are always adding more and more venues to our arsenal. So we're just super excited to have that. We'll do a quick round of introductions and then dive into questions. Dominique, I see that you are unmuted, so we'll start with you. Do you mind sharing just a little bit about yourself, and we'll pass it on to Renee after that?
Well, okay, I start. Well, everybody know what I've done as a career in basketball, but the thing that's most, I should say that really intrigues me the most, and the thing that I'm most passionate about is healthcare. And you talk about, we talk about inclusion and what we do with Culture City to create an atmosphere where everyone can enjoy and everyone can be included. And that's what we're about. That's what I'm about. I have special needs kids who has been down that road, who've been in situations where sometimes it's not fair. And so we have to stand on the wall for people who can't stand on the wall for themselves, and make sure that they do or are included in things around this world that's important to them as well as it is to us. And a lot of times it gets ignored, and we could be a little selfish as people sometimes, but my passion is to help people who can't help themselves. And I've been that way my whole life, even as a former basketball player. I find as much enjoyment out of doing this type of work as I did as a player. So that's who I am as a person. That's my mission. And I tell you the truth, this is going to be a long road that we all going to have to travel, but it's worth traveling.
Awesome. Thank you, Dominique. And I know on a day-to-day basis, I'm thankful to have you as a part of Culture City. You've opened so many doors for us, so thank you. Renee, I'll pass it on to you.
Oh gosh, following on from Dominique is a mean feat. It's tough. My name is Renee. I'm coming to you from Salt Lake City today. I'm actually from Australia, as you've probably put together in the accent already. I had a 17-year career as a netballer. I won't go into what netball is just yet. That's another whole conversation that I can have with all of you offline, because trying to explain what netball is can be tough. But my first and favourite job of all time is obviously a mum of my 3 kids. I have 4-year-old twins, Jacob and Miller, and then a 4-month-old Jack. And my son, Jacob, one of the twins, happens to be on the spectrum. We found that out about 2 years ago when he was about 2.5. So I'd say my journey in this space is short. I'm still new to all of this. And I think what makes me so passionate about being on the board of Culture City, being on the board of 4 ASD kids back in Australia, is that I've always seen myself as quite a kind and non-judgmental person. However, now having a child with special needs, I feel like there was so much that I just didn't know, even looking with a kind eye. So it's really put me into this space of wanting to do more, learn more, understand more about not just kids on the spectrum or with sensory needs, but anyone with differences out there, and how us with our platforms, how we can give back to our community and all of these people and help along the way, as like what Dominique explained. So I'm really, really enjoying it so far. I've learned a huge amount, not only about myself, my family, autism, but how well we can all band together as a community and really make a difference. And I think that's what it's actually about, making a difference for kids like my son, Jacob.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee. And we'll have to take you up on the offer of coffee to learn more about netball. I'd love to learn. I went to Australia 2 years ago and watched my first footy game, and it was a lot different than football, rugby, anything. So, all right, Antony, I'll pass it to you. Antony, thanks to your leadership and thanks to your trust early on, Culture City was able to partner with the Cavaliers. Back then, it was the Quicken Arena, and now Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And, you've truly connected us to a lot of different venues, whether it be colleges, other pro sports. So a quick shout out to you. Thank you. And your intro.
Well, thanks. And I'm sure everybody remembers me from my basketball and netball career as well. I mean, the fact that I'm on this panel is ridiculous. We had the fortune of having an unfortunate incident here in Cleveland with a family with autism that sparked an unbelievable recovery for us, both from how we handled that specific situation, and ultimately the door it opened up for us to be a more inclusive place for everyone as we go forward. And I know we'll probably touch on a little bit more on what the program was and how we got started. But for the person who was ultimately responsible, I really, I definitely failed the most, because I have a son that's on the autism spectrum, and for us not to be as in line or aware of what we should have been doing as a sports facility and an arena, it was really on me. And so it was important to us that we didn't make the same mistake twice. We recovered, I think, enormously well, and are grateful for the craziness that happens in life. Someone being on a plane with Julian, and the next thing you know, Julian's got us building a sensory room. It was amazing how it worked out. And life has a way of working things out that way. But we're very, very proud of this room. I'm happy to be sitting in it here today. Very proud of this room. We're very proud that we were, played a small role in what ultimately became Culture City's launch into the 650 venues. So congratulations to you, Michelle, Julian, the board, just an amazing, amazing group of people who are passionate. Like Dominique, I think my biggest role in life is to try to help people, and try to leave this place a little bit better than I found it.
Awesome. Thank you, Antony. And before we dive into the specifics on how all of this came to be, I like to use the word serendipity. I want to reflect on the last year. 2020 was definitely challenging for all of us personally, for all of us professionally. I remember messaging Renee several months ago, and Joe was off at the NBA bubble. Renee was pregnant at the time. And I was just like, holy moly, Renee, how are you doing all this? 2 kids at home and husband at the bubble. Dominique, you being in Atlanta, not being able to travel anymore. And then Antony, having to shut your doors for a year. What did this last year look like? And what was one positive thing that came out of all of this? And we'll start with Dominique, and I will.
I would say this, for me, it brought, and what I saw with people that I'm very close to, it brought families closer together, because, I don't think we really appreciated family time and time with loved ones and people who are very special in your life. And it took a dramatic event like we had with COVID to bring people together. And yeah, I think Antony has kids and spent time with them that I probably normally wouldn't have an opportunity to do because I trust the team. But it made me appreciate it, and make me dive into what their emotions are, the things that they're passionate about. And it gave me time to sit back and take my time and reflect on the things that's important to me. And being able to stay home, not traveling for the last year and a half has been great in a sense, because I had a chance to spend that valuable time. And I get to learn more about my two daughters who are dealing with special needs and things that we can do to be more creative and helping them, making their life easier, especially my daughter, how she moves around the house, finding different things to put in place where it makes things simple for her. So we constantly trying to find opportunities and different things to give an easier access within my home, but easy conversations for us to talk about. I want them to feel comfortable. So I think that's the important thing that I've gotten from this.
Awesome. Renee, I'll toss it over to you.
I think it's incredibly tough for all of us to sum up what 2020 felt like and looked like for all of us. I think it was so incredibly tough. I see myself as a really strong, positive, outgoing, vibrant person. And I think at times during 2020, I wasn't able to be that. I think we're still living in isolation. I haven't seen my family who are back in Australia for over a year and a half now, which is incredibly difficult. And given Jacob's immunocompromised, given I spent most of 2020 pregnant, COVID was terrifying for me, honestly. So I think at the end of the day, when you strip back the bare bones and think about what we actually learned over 2020, for me personally, I think it really showed me what I'm grateful for. And maybe I don't think I've ever taken anything in my life or any opportunity for granted, but I think it really drills home. Once you can't have something, whether that be the relationships, the social, kids going to school, seeing family, all of those things in the day-to-day of the mundane life that are really tough, we maybe took for granted. And I think if anything, what 2020 made me do, even though I was already doing it, it really made me stop and just be present with my kids and my family, because that's all that I had at the time and could do. And I think when I think about the kids, especially the twins, obviously at the age they're at, the progress that they have made over the last 12 months and the relationships that both Joe and I and Jacob's therapists and Miller's teachers and all of the things that they've had to learn over this incredibly difficult period, I think will be a positive, because you want to instill resilience in your kids. And I think 2020 has made us do that. And it really has made us just be present with our kids in the moment, and just so thankful for our health at the end of the day, because not everyone's lucky enough to say that after 2020.
Yeah. And Renee, I'll say props to you for all your creative at-home activities. I kind of wanted to make the tape spider web and play myself. Since we can't go out anymore, weekends are boring. I can.
Well, you know what? So many people write to me through social media channels and ask how I do it and why I do it. And I think they ask me the question thinking that I want to do it, and I don't. I don't love doing 4-year-old kid activities all day, every day, but I do love seeing the joy on the kids' faces doing it. And honestly, that's why we do it. Makes the day go faster, and seeing their little faces smile and them learning while they're doing it is obviously what it's all about.
That's amazing. And Antony, off to you. What has the last year been like? What's the one positive thing you've seen?
Well, I would probably echo the same sentiments, right? Family, working a busy, crazy business where, nights and weekends and things like that, and that all stopped. So at least the good thing is that my family still likes me, because I've been home a lot more for at least they say they do. I think they're a little happy that I'm back to work a little bit more, but that's more personally. I think professionally too, we have a lot of lessons learned that we're going to learn from this. And, we don't know what what else is going to come from this, moving forward. How are we going to be inclusive and accommodating for people who may decide to wear a mask forever, or whatever else comes from this. So I think it's a business. We have to continue to be aware and have some forethought as to what we can do to make sure that we're paying attention to what the world needs from us. One of the things that we just unveiled recently is gender neutral bathrooms in our building, which is not something that you see in a lot of sports facilities. So little tidbits of that our team continues to work on, again, trying to provide an inclusive and accepting environment for everyone. So,
Antony, that's a good segue to my next question I had for you and Dominique. How have you been prepping for fans to return back to the seats? No, of course, no high fives, no hugs from guest services. But what does this new normal look like right now?
Looks like Dominique might have dropped, but I think it's a bridge, right? It's a bridge back to normalcy. It's not comfortable for anybody. It's not comfortable for the fans. It's not comfortable for our staff. We're in a people business, and I kid all the time about how I can't stand people because we put millions of people through our doors every year, and you always tend to remember the ones that cost you the most aggravation, right? We also have to remember that we create a lot of memories, and that every time we open our doors, it's a memory for people, and so those are the things that we're grateful for to be back doing, providing those opportunities, even if it is in a bridge fashion, right? Even if you can't do the high five tunnels and the autograph sessions. I have 2 little boys, and my youngest son is a basketball junkie. He loves being here, and so it's hard for him when he can't go over and say hello to the guys now. He doesn't, he understands it because he's dealing with it every day at school, but he doesn't like it, right? He's used to being able to just roll around here and shake the players' hands and do what he wants to do. But at the end of the day, he's still getting memories, and we're still creating memories. Just like tonight, when we open the doors, we'll make thousands and thousands of memories. So I'm grateful for that. Grateful to be back doing that.
Awesome. I was going to ask Dominique, but I think he has a poor connection. So Renee, I'll toss it to you. Sensory inclusion is important to you, of course, due to your son. Tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in Salt Lake, whether it's with Vivint, and especially touch in on what we're doing next week with the first responders in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I think it's a growing space. And I think especially given 2020 and even obviously the beginning of this 2021, like Antony said, we're building bridges and we're going to find our feet as we go. And that's kind of where we're at here as well. We're so excited for next week. I don't know how much I'm actually allowed to say about that, Uma. But very, very excited that the Salt Lake City PD and first responders have been willing to come on board with Culture City and work together to make their divisions and departments sensory certified, which is an incredible step forward for all of us. For me to know when Jacob's older, that when he's out on the streets, he's a little bit safer because someone might be more understanding as a first responder to him, or if someone, whatever it is, I just think that's a huge leap forward. We're lucky enough at Vivint Arena also to have one of the Culture City sensory rooms. And for me, I think I haven't stepped foot in a basketball stadium for well over 12 months. The game before the Jazz shut the world down, the sporting world down, was the last time I'd been in a basketball stadium, which means that Jacob also hasn't been in a basketball stadium, and the kids. So my anxiety of taking Jacob back into, I guess, a situation or an environment where there's bright lights, loud noise, lots of people wearing masks, everything's going to look different again. That's scary, really, really scary. So to know that I at least have the backing, I have more confidence in myself being able to take the kids to the game, knowing that if Jacob's not coping well, that there is a sensory space that he can go and be calm and play with bubbles that he loves, and maybe get some headphones and go back down if he's feeling more comfortable. I can honestly say that Jacob is fantastic if he's given the opportunity to go to environments to learn and to grow, and he remembers everything. So if I take him into a stadium and it is a horrible experience, the next time we walk into the stadium, it's a horrible experience before we've even walked into the stadium. So to know that I could take him and read his cues, and if he was not coping, that we could go and enable him to cope and better enjoy that, then excellent. And then on the other side of that is the creating memories, exactly what Antony said. Without spaces like this that are inclusive and allow people with invisible disabilities to go and do what we call normal things is so important, because I want Jacob to be able to create memories, and I want Joe to know that all of his kids can be in the stadium and support him while he's doing his thing and his career, and that they can cope in that environment too. So it's that, that chain effect. And I think we've got a long way to go, but the minute we're all vaccinated and we can get back into those stadiums and feel comfortable, I'm so excited to go back into that sensory room to reintroduce Jacob into that environment, knowing that if he gets comfortable there again, then he could easily go each and every week following on from that. So again, Antony, I have to say thank you for paving the way for this, because I honestly, before when we got Jacob's diagnosis initially, I thought our lives as normal were over, because I didn't think there were opportunities to do things like this. So well done on paving the way, and again to Culture City for enabling stadiums that we've been in to do the same thing, not only here but in Australia as well. And one of my favourite memories from 2019, can't believe that's the last time Jacob went to the basketball, was actually in Marvel Stadium, which we helped get sensory certified in Melbourne, Australia. And Joe, the Boomers, actually played the USA in the stadium, hundreds of thousands of people, and I was able to take Jacob to the game, and Joe was able to wave and see him in the crowd with his Culture City headphones on. And then at halftime, I was able to take him into the room, and he had a snack and calmed down and was able to go back out, and spent the entire game in the front row at a Boomers v USA game that blew everyone's socks off in terms of sensory, and he was there and enjoyed it. So it creates memories, and that's exactly what we're all about with our family.
Wow, Renee, I actually did not know that story. I mean, I know you introduced us to Marvel and you attended the game, but that was amazing. Wow. That's left me speechless.
Well, it's been a tough road, and of course I think it falls back. It's incredibly tough for Joe as well, because he wants his family and his kids seeing what he does in his career, just the same as I when I was playing. And it gives the opportunity to do that. It gives the opportunity for these people to be in the stadium and comfortable doing normal things and living whatever we call normal life is, but not missing out on experiences, and the whole family not missing out on the experience because someone in their family is not as well able to cope. So it's important, and it's awesome. At the end of the day, it's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, Renee, I'm hoping you and the kiddos can head back to Arena. Fingers crossed. Antony, Renee set the stage really well about what the present looks like. And thank you again for paving the road and recognizing how important this was 4 years ago. You briefly touched on the story of how it happened. Serendipity is my summary of it, but talk to us a little bit about the details, and then I'll be happy to chime in on behalf of Culture City and share our side of it.
Okay. Well, first of all, if anybody wants us to come screw anything up, that's how it all started, right? I mean, we didn't handle the situation right, it's like you said, it's incredible how it went down. We had a hockey game. We have a minor league hockey team that we own here in Cleveland, and it was Autism Awareness Night, and a family from Akron, Ohio, decided to come to the game, and their son, is nonverbal and has to wear a device to be able to communicate. So Carson was coming through the magnetometers, which are the security mechanisms, and our security staff didn't realize what it was, and he was asking him to take it off, and he got frustrated, and our team got frustrated, and we just didn't handle the situation right. His mom, like any mom, will go and tell us that we did something wrong. She took to social media, and this is back in 2016, which obviously Twitter and social media is at a tremendously different platform now, but even 5 years ago, it wasn't anywhere where it is today. But we had done a really nice job. It's a quick sidebar story is our owner got involved in Twitter and social media early on in my career here. I've been here 11 years. And he started, he would be on Twitter and then somebody would tweet to him that there was a cup holder missing. And he would literally email me and say, there's a cup holder missing in section 112. So we had to figure out a way to get that stuff in front of us before it got in front of him. And so we developed this whole platform, this whole team to monitor our social media because he shouldn't be worried about cup holders. And I was tired of getting those emails. So we developed a plan. And so we had a really robust social media platform. And we happened to see Amy Bellis's tweet that night. And we reached out and tried to find out what happened. She was very eager to tell us. And when it got to me in a report later that evening, I reached out to my team and said, what happened here? And then it filled me in on when, obviously it was a child with special needs, an autistic child. And, and that hit home for me. I said, we got to do better here. I have a son that's autistic and here I am, leading the charge of something and we're not paying attention to that. And, part of that's because you never want to take your personal life and bring it into work, right? I didn't want to make everything about my son, right? I didn't want to make this the most, friendly, inclusive building in the world, nor did I really even know it at the time. He's 11 now, will be 11 next week. But very much like Renee and Joe, we got a diagnosis at 2.5 years old, and we had no idea what to do. So he was only, like 6 at the time. And so we didn't really have a lot of experience either. And we first reached out to the Cleveland Clinic, which is a big, hospital here in Cleveland, and also reached out to where our son went, which is the Achievement Centers for Children, and started asking about what we should do to train our staff and how we should do it. And they were very helpful. But one of our basketball operations folks happens to be on a plane sitting next to Julian, and they have a conversation. And the next thing you know, I get an email that says, hey, we should talk to these folks. They're looking at creating a sensory program. And again, this is in 2015, 16, and we didn't know what a sensory program was or sensory inclusion was. And no one ever heard of Culture City. And so, my team, Patrick Scanlon, who's our senior director of guest experience, really took the lead on it. And he worked with Julian and Michelle and the group there. And we were able to roll out our first sensory program in the fall of 2016. And then, shortly after in the winter and spring of 2017, we were fortunate enough to open the sensory room that I'm sitting in today. We never, ever thought that it would become what it has become today. We did it sincerely because it was the right thing to do, not because we expected to be on TV or be talking about this here 5 to 6 years later and have you guys be at 650 venues. Our bigism, our cultural values here are about doing the right thing. So we literally just tried to do the right thing. And in some small way, we feel like just maybe, we're helping to change the world. So grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah. So Antony, I always like hearing that story. It was unfortunate what happened with Carson, but you guys were quick to react and make sure it never happens again. The Culture City perspective, Julian, our founder, was flying. He was sitting next to this individual who happened to be associated with the Quicken Loans Arena and the Cavs. And at that point, Culture City was very much an Alabama organization. We were working with the Birmingham Zoo. We had developed our training there. At that time, our training was probably an hour and a half, which, as some of our colleagues on the line know, that's a tad too long for your employees to sit through. You guys have so many trainings. So when we finally signed on with Quicken Loans Arena and the Cavs, we had our team fly up. We did an in-person training. I remember seeing pictures. It was almost 1,200 people sitting in the stands. Can you believe that used to happen back in the day? But we trained them, and thanks to Antony, Patrick, and their leadership, we were able to fine-tune our training. We got feedback saying, hey, this is all great information, but a lot of it isn't relevant to my job, or it's a bit too long. And then we came in and we built the first sensory room. Antony, I remember you and Julian were sharing a stat pre-pandemic. No matter what the event was, that sensory room was being used about 10 times an event. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, depending upon the type of event, but we even had rock concerts where adults, needed a break and would come in here. But again, I think, the door that we have opened, very much like for Renee and Joe, is that I can bring our son here. He's not a big fan of the fireworks and the loud bangs and stuff like that. And so he doesn't want to come to stuff, but if he knows he can come to the sensory room, he's all about it. It allows us to be, to conduct those normal activities, right? To be able to go out to dinner and come to a game and do things like that. And, I'm excited for us to get back to that normalcy, because now the boys are older, they're a little bit more self-sufficient, not much, but a little more self-sufficient, able to come here and experience the event. And again, if there's 10 people a night or one person a night, we're changing that for someone. And that's all that matters. We changed someone's life, whether it's 1 or 10 a night, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And, thanks again to the leadership. We have such a big presence in Cleveland. We were able to partner with the Cleveland Indians. They have a sensory room. We were able to partner with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We were able to partner with Akron Summit County Library. So 19 libraries in that whole entire district are inclusive, and so many other zoos and aquariums in that community. So it's truly been an exciting journey for us. And if you had tuned in right when the event kicked off, I was telling Antony, we've been speaking with the NFL, and we're actually making the NFL draft inclusive. So later this month, our team is headed up to Cleveland. We have something called a SAFE. It's our sensory activation vehicle. So it's basically the sensory room that Antony is sitting in, compressed into a trailer, and we'll be driving it up, and it'll be available on site all weekend. So, we're ready to have more and more fans. And so, we're really looking forward to that, and always trying to innovate. If there's not a sensory room available at the event, let's try to have a trailer and, take it places. Renee, I believe this was right when we first started speaking with you. We drove that trailer out right outside Salt Lake City to Love Loud Fest. And that was a fun trip. I'm not sure if you were able to make it, but that was actually one of the first trips that our SAVE took.
I just think it's such a wonderful opportunity also for venues that may think we don't have the space currently or the time or the resources to put a sensory room in, but to know that there is a bus that could travel up there and do exactly the same thing. And sometimes half of the noise is outside of the venue before you actually even walk in the doors. Sometimes that's overwhelming for us, let alone someone with sensory difficulties. So I think it's a wonderful, wonderful initiative that's just going to give more and more people and families the opportunity to go to these events, and loud events, overwhelming events.
Of course. Just looking at the time real quick, I do want to open it up to our attendees for questions. But before I do, I've been asking this new question to anybody I speak with lately. What are you looking most forward to once we resume normal? It could be anything. Renee, we'll start with you.
Definitely seeing my family and friends back in Australia at some stage, because that travel just hasn't been safe enough. And then the quarantines and the hotel quarantines and border closures and what it all sort of looks like. It's all a little bit scary at the moment. So definitely reconnecting with family and friends, and even just reconnecting with the community here in Salt Lake City, going to restaurants, going outside and feeling comfortable about being closer than 6 feet with people, all of those sorts of things. I think we can talk about big things, and I'm excited. I'm excited to travel to Cleveland because now I know that I can take Jacob into that stadium. I'm excited to do all of those big things again, but it's actually all of those small things across the day of normal things, or going into a supermarket and just normal things, particularly social, getting back to normal again, if it ever does. I don't know.
Hopefully one day. And Antony, for you, what are you looking most forward to?
Yeah, I mean, very similar. It's hard. It's such a mental, so mentally draining, right? To get up on the day and say, I'm going to go call this person and go have a drink, or meet them for a meal tonight. Like, oh no, I can't do that. Just even that, you forget sometimes, and just so being able to not have to think through it as much, and whether it's going to be outside or do you want to wear a mask? Do you not want to wear a mask? I mean, look, it's not the end of the world to wear a mask, but it's uncomfortable, and it makes, being able to shake somebody's hand and give them a hug, and being able to do the things that you normally would do. I've been, to a number of different, experiences personally with funerals and other stuff. And it's like, you just don't know what, like, you can't give somebody a hug, and they just lost somebody, and you're just like, that bothers me. I just want to get back to being able to be a little bit more able to do some of that stuff. And certainly traveling, getting away, going to experience different parts of the world, just being able to get out of the monotony of the same thing day to day, is something that my family and I love to do, and I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. So we'll kind of wrap up our panel discussion here. I'll give everybody a minute or two to start typing in questions. Renee, I already have a question for you from somebody in the audience.
Okay.
Please keep sending them over to us. Renee, this question is kind of related to COVID. Actually, it is related to COVID. Somebody's asked us, do you have any tips for young kids and how you can ask them to wear masks and keep them on? I guess, like me, they follow you on social media, and you've got all these cool tips and tricks up your sleeve.
For me, I think, how do I put this nicely? It's a mandated rule in our family. If we're going to go out and do something fun, and by fun at the moment, it's just walk around the block or, go to the park when no one's there, then you wear your mask. And I think it's kind of like monkey see, monkey do. If the kids see us wearing the masks, they're usually pretty happy to do it. Miller is in preschool, and their entire preschool, all of the class wear masks. And I remember before she went back going, this isn't going to last long. Miller's going to be asked not to come back to school because she's not going to wear a mask. And on the first day I came home, I said, did you wear your mask today? And she just looked at me like, yeah, like we have to wear our masks. So they're actually pretty good, and especially if their peers are doing it, then they're happy to do it as well. Everyone's doing it, so it hasn't been a huge concern. We've been pretty lucky. With Jacob, I think we've had challenges at different times. Some days he's just like, nope, don't want to do it, and I have to remain pretty firm and say, mate, buddy, this is for your health and you have to wear it, or we have to go back home and sit inside. And usually he's like, okay, like I don't want to do that. But yep, sometimes I have to fight him with the mask. Sometimes it's led to a couple of meltdowns, but you know what? We deal with it because that's the world we're living in at the moment. But I think kids learn pretty quickly. They're pretty incredible creatures. And if mum and dad are doing it, if the kids at school are doing it, then okay, that's just our new normal, wear our masks. And sometimes when we're running out the door pretty quickly in the morning to school, Miller will be the one to remind me, oh, mum, don't forget my mask. So yeah, they're pretty good. I've been pretty lucky in that aspect with the kids.
Yeah. That's awesome. And Antony, I'll toss that question over to you too. Your son is a bit older than Jacob. Any tips or tricks for our attendees?
Honestly, I believe if our country was being run by 5-year-olds to 15-year-olds, we'd be in a much better place. They are much more compliant. They are much more understanding. They're more empathetic. Our kids have been great with the masks. They go to school. They doesn't want to go to tutoring, but he definitely is okay with the mask. They're both pretty aware of what's going on and why it's important. So we haven't had any real challenges with it. But I do want to say, I really do think the more and more I see our kids interacting with other kids, I have great hope for them, because the way that they're being influenced in different ways from people like Renee and Dominique and other people who are on social media in good ways. I think these kids are a lot more empathetic and understanding than the folks that are in charge right now, and I have great hope for them. So no really any tip, but I would say stay firm. No matter what, you got to stay firm, and you have to model the behavior. That's the same with anything. It's the same when you have to model the behavior. If you're not going to model the behavior, then you're never going to get your people to be committed to the process and committed to what they're trying to do.
And it goes without saying, my kids are 4 and they're all about their outfits and what characters they're into. So if they've got a mask with a unicorn on the front or a mask with a Mario and Luigi on the front, that's pretty cool. So, what are their favorite things? Masks are coming in all wonderful ways and patterns and designs and all those sorts of things. So it can be a cool thing as well.
Yeah, awesome. All right, we've got questions coming in. Antony, this one is for you, but they've got a series of questions. I'll take the first two. I'll just read them all out first. Antony, thank you for being the first. How many staff do you have or need to train to manage a sensory room at the arena for year-round activities? Do you require special training or certifications? Is that something that come to the job holding or provided by your organization? So I'll take a first stab at it and then pass it on to you. Thank you so much for listening in. So the training that Culture City provides, we do ask that at a minimum 50% of staff be certified. Typically those are guest facing everybody and anybody from security, ushers, ticket takers, vending, and concessions to be certified. And within that training, we touch base on sensory bags. We talk about sensory rooms, all the items that are in each of these tools, what's the purpose for them. And so through that, a lot of the staff are able to better understand why we have a sensory room, why the bubble walls exist. You know, it's not just something we thought would look pretty and threw on the wall. In addition, for our venues who do have sensory rooms, their guest services teams also provide additional training on their protocols. You know, is the room unlocked at all times, or do you have to be escorted to the room? And they'll also talk about cleaning policies. Antony, I'll let you answer the second part about, you know, how your sensory room is managed. I know you've got somebody who stands outside the room. You know, what exactly are you looking for that individual who mans that?
Yeah, so I would just say that it doesn't add any cost, right? So any organization that wants to push back on the cost of running a room like this, that's not a reason not to do it. I mean, we have one person that's monitoring a different area that's able to be here to let somebody in when they need to be in. But as far as training goes, we try to train everyone. I mean, including our full-time staff that is in, you know, marketing and sales and other, you know, they're on elevators, they're on escalators, they're walking around, they have clients, they have, you know, you never know who you're going to encounter and when. And so just like we do with CPR and other stuff, we try to be as inclusive with that as we can. That takes time, that takes resources, you know, financially, to make sure that gets done. But if we're going to open up our doors, we're going to try to make sure that everyone is prepared to handle whatever we have to offer the public in the sensory room, in the sensory program, and our ability to be an inclusive and accepting environment is a commitment from our organization from the top down, and we're going to put the resources that are necessary to be able to do that effectively.
Awesome, thank you. And to that anonymous attendee, I did share my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to send me a message and would love to make whatever venue you represent inclusive. And if you want, we also have a fireside chat with our Director of Education and Sean, who is a self-advocate and a board member of Culture City, on Tuesday, April 13th at 5 Central, 6 Eastern. So would encourage you, if you haven't already, to register for that. And that conversation, we're actually going to roll up our sleeves just a little bit more and talk about sensory needs in specific and how to, you know, engage or communicate with somebody who might be having a sensory overload. Renee?
Sean is one of the most incredible human beings I've ever come across. He's amazing.
Sean is the best.
He really is.
Yes. Renee, this next question is for you, and I guess kind of for me, but I actually texted Julian while we were speaking, and he did say, yes, we can talk a lot more about Salt Lake City and the work that we're doing. So talk to the audience a little bit about, you know, what ignited that, you know, what happened exactly for you and Joe to say, hold on, we need to train first responders in Salt Lake City. And then Meg, I'll answer the second part of your question about the event next week.
Yeah, without going into too much detail about names and person and all of the personnel involved, obviously there was an incident here in Salt Lake City with a first responder and an autistic boy getting shot. It's hard to describe the circumstances that happened before that and in the lead up and what led to that, but at the end of the day, it probably, that first responder was not able to respond with, I guess, what do you say? an inclusive, non-judgmental, more understanding eye or viewpoint before shooting this young boy. And there are tools and resources and sensory training in place that can help first responders deal with those moments, opportunities. And even since some of the first responders have done this sensory training, we have seen some huge progress, and there are actual examples from our mayor where the first responders have said, thank you so much for that training because it helped me deal with that situation. So, I mean, how awesome is that? And from us being here in the Salt Lake City community, we're really, really proud of the community and being part of it, that the first responders and police department here would want to better themselves in this situation and learn and become sensory verified and certified. We just think it is huge, and the amount of parents and individuals that we've had reach out to say thank you because it makes them sleep a little better at night knowing that their kids may be a little bit safer if one of these situations jumps out at them is just wonderful and heartwarming to hear. Yeah, and I mean, they're the people out in our community keeping us safe, keeping everyone safe, and that's important.
And I just want to say thank you to you and Joe, because of your leadership and your commitment. Salt Lake City is the first to obtain the certification. And, you know, once somebody's the first, everybody else wants to follow. So we truly can't wait to make every city, town, state capital certified. So that way there are no more unfortunate incidences for those with sensory needs and first responders or EMS. We want to prevent that. So thank you. Thank you so much for connecting us. And Meg, to answer your question, next Friday, we are actually announcing that all, or I believe majority of the first responders EMS have been trained. They all will have sensory bags. Their vehicles will have decals. So that way individuals know that this particular first responder EMS has been trained. So Renee is going to join in person. I'll actually be flying up. It'll be one of my first trips. And we are going to have a small gathering. I am not sure if it is open to the public. I do know they are inviting media. I believe you know Renee. So Renee, I will get that question answered and pass that answer along if you want to send it off to Megan. And if it is open, would love to have you. I'm not sure with COVID restrictions what that really looks like.
And just to make point on that you said that they're the first department to do all of this training. I think that's the wonderful thing, and it goes back to the question that Antony answered before, is that Culture City asked that 50% of the staff and everyone gets certified. Correct me if I'm wrong, Uma, but far more, the percentage is way higher than that of the buy-in of the staff that actually do the sensory training. So it's not at the 50%, and that's gone the same with the first responders and the Salt Lake City PD, is that they all did it. Everyone did it. And I know in the venue that we did in Australia as well, they asked for a 50% and I think they got 90%. So there's a huge amount of buy-in, not only because they have to do this course and only 50% have to do it, but that they want to do it and they want to learn and become better understanding and all of that. So it's wonderful.
I just checked the system. They are at 98% trained, which is amazing.
Amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'll say the same for Marvel. When we first started working with them, Marvel Stadium is the largest stadium in the world. Pre-COVID, they hosted the most events in a year. I believe every night they were changing their field from a footy game to a special basketball game to a cricket game to Justin Bieber.
Concert,
to anybody and everybody. And they got almost 90% of their staff trained. And we're talking about large numbers. So, thank you for the commitment. We have a question from Sean. Sean, I'm glad you're listening in. We actually didn't know you were here, or else we would have said even more awesome things about you. He has asked, what's next for Culture City? What's planned for the future? Being a part of the team, I would say for us, we want to make every venue inclusive. We don't care if you're a library that serves 5 people or if you're a venue that seats 100,000. For us, every venue is just as important. So that's my personal goal. Renee, as a board member, what's your vision? And then Antony, you being the first, we'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, obviously exactly the same as you. The more venues, the more places, the more restaurants, the more cafes, the more staff that are trained to be sensory inclusive, I think is where we want to be. Everywhere we want sensory inclusive. I would love it if we got to a space that, regardless of whether you're a staff member somewhere, work at a venue, a library, whatever it is, just your normal civilian said, oh, there's a course that I can do to become better understanding of people with sensory needs. I'm going to jump online and do it. I would love to get to that space where it's not just because it's a part of your job, but just because us as people want to be able to do that sort of training. I would love to get the Salt Lake City community there, the country, and then across the world. The more people that have better understanding, the better for all of us.
Awesome.
I would just say, if I was running it as a business, I would say, how do we become more diversified? But that's not what the mission is, right? The mission is to make the world more inclusive. So I think you need to stay true to the mission. I think there's more than enough opportunity. You talked about Cleveland PD. I'm sorry, you talked about Salt Lake PD. I wrote Cleveland PD down because we're going to be calling you and we're going to figure out how to get this done here very soon. But I'm thinking schools, Walmarts and Targets and places where people of special needs, either are going to go shop, or and also potentially work, right? Get jobs there. So there's so much opportunity.
Schools. I love schools.
Schools for all of you that if I was CEO, I would say, how do we get into that? But stay true to the mission. This mission is inclusive, being inclusive, and that's what you need to stay true to. And however we can help, we're more than happy to do so.
Awesome. We've got 5 minutes. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We want to get Renee back before the baby wakes up, and hopefully, I don't know if Joe needs a break from watching the twins, and you probably have to head home. Renee wants to talk for another hour.
Yeah, I might just go have a hot bath, bubble bath after this.
Yeah. But again, thank you so much for listening. And I'm just scrolling through a lot of the names. Again, to Keith and the Titans team, we're actually launching our sensory room there. They are going to be the first in Nashville to have a sensory room, and we're going to be opening that when the soccer season opens up, I believe April 17. So if you don't already, follow us on social media and be on the lookout for all of these amazing partnerships that we have coming up in the pipeline. We've had a lot of modifications due to COVID. We're still keeping it safe. We are constantly creating trainings for our venue so they can better communicate with staff on how to, continue to enforce masks, be respectful. Renee, one last question for you is, of course, I follow you on social media. I saw yesterday that you announced an amazing fundraiser for the month of April. Quickly, in the last 3 minutes, tell us a little bit more about that fundraiser and how we can participate.
Oh, I'm so excited. Joe and I, we launched today, but we announced it yesterday. We have an Ingles charity auction. So every day for the month of April, which is Autism Awareness Month, there will be an auction item there. You'll be able to bid on each item for about 5 days before it closes. And hopefully we can rate. There are some really cool auction items, by the way. We've only announced, we've got the first 15 that we're sort of ready to announce, but there are some pretty cool things in the pot. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to bid on them. Joe probably won't let me, or if he hasn't already. But all of that money at the end, we are actually splitting between our charity in Australia for ASD kids, which has taken a huge hit during COVID, which provides therapy and bills and helps families to enable kids to get early intervention. As all of us here know how important early intervention is with an autism diagnosis. And the other half is actually going to go to autism schools here in Salt Lake City to cover intervention bills, because anyone who has a child on the spectrum knows that it is logistically and financially a huge burden on families here. So we want to help as many families as we can. So we're really excited about the auction. If you don't like any of the auction items, you're also able to donate at the end. So every little bit counts. So we would love to get as much to give back to the community, both here and in Australia. So very excited to see how it goes over the next month. And the first one actually just launched today, which is a virtual Q&A with Joe and I. Anyone who knows Joe is that he's very hard to get a hold of. He's very hard to keep in one spot. So knowing that you'll have him for 30 to 40 minutes of a chat, virtual questions, it should be worth a fair bit because he is hard to get sat down.
That sounds so exciting, Renee. I am going to click on the link right now and see what I can bid on.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. Really excited about, what the future holds for both of you, constantly supporting Culture City. Thank you to Pro Sports Assembly for having us have a great open dialogue. Apologies from Dominique's behalf that he had to cut short. He had to go to the Hawks. They were having a basketball emergency. So thank you again to everybody for tuning in, and excited to chat again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Uma. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Antony. And please send my thanks to Dominique. I'm in Atlanta, so obviously whatever is going on, it is an emergency. So I appreciate all of you taking the time on behalf of Pro Sports Assembly. The leadership that you all have shown today will make a difference in our industry. Antony, as a founding board member of Pro Sports Assembly, we thank you for bringing this conversation to the table. It takes leaders like you to highlight these specific topics and discussions to continue the trend and get every arena, every stadium, every venue this is a standard now. This shouldn't be something that you do because somebody tweeted at you and you're in trouble now. This should be the standard. So we thank you. And for all of our Pro Sports Assembly members on the call now, we have some fantastic upcoming events for you to take part in. On the 7th of April, Dan Gladstone, another Pro founder, will have a conversation with Rosalind Golden Onude on April 7th with cocktails, so make sure you bring your drinks. On the same day, MLB's Michelle Meyership will join Shelly Zalis from the Female Quotient for a one-on-one conversation on pro sports league leadership. And then on the 21st, we will have Kim Stone and Lynn Perna have a conversation on her journey to being a general manager as a woman in the space. And for those who are looking to add to their toolkit, if you are a leader in your organization's ERG or BRG, we are proud to announce this is the first time we're announcing this, our Pro Sports Assembly and RISE Certificate of Inclusive Leadership. So for those of you who found what was discussed today interesting, this certificate is something that you definitely want to be a part of. It's going to be an 8-week program or 8-part program. And all of these, you could go on our website, prosportsassembly.org, to learn more and register. Again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here today. If you don't already know, this is where it is. Uma, we appreciate all the work that you're doing. To everyone, thank you and have a great day.